You're listening to Redesigning Reality with Dylan Charles and Jeff Anthony.
This is Redesigning Reality, the podcast. I'm speaking to you from North Carolina. My name is Dylan Charles. In the on the scene with me, Jeff Anthony in Eugene, Oregon. What's up, Jeff? How you doing?
Yo, here we are, Eugene, Oregon. Speaking up.
Yo,
yeah, no, it's good. Things are good.
Cool, things are good. A lot happening in the world, and what's happening close to home right now is some incredible spring weather. God, it's so needed. Springing out, the leaves are about to bud on the trees. The cold is finally starting to slip away, and the winter's finally starting to give up its deathly grip on the scene here. So, good times.
Well, that's good for you. Not here. It was 39 degrees yesterday morning when we got up, and I went outside with no shoes and no jacket on to go pick up a delivery, and I was like, dude, I'm freezing out here.
Yeah, I mean, just like two, 3 days ago, I was like, oh my God, man, this has got to stop.
Right.
Now, if you're tuning in for the first time or again, thank you very much, sincerely from the bottom of our oversized hearts. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Jeff and I, we're good friends. We've been friends for a number of years. Our friendship really came to being, into fruition while we were both living with our individual families in the great Latin American country of Costa Rica. Now, Costa Rica, the weather there is totally different than it is here. They have 2 seasons instead of 4. These seasons run from roughly, the rainy season starts in roughly May and ends in roughly November, October. So it's kind of like the summer, and then rain stops, sun comes out, it gets really hot and dry for 6 months. Totally different than North Carolina.
Totally different than Eugene, too, with the exception of we get a lot of rain here, so... But yeah, no cold weather in Costa Rica. This is all a new, got a lot of new jackets, long-sleeve shirts.
We've redesigned our reality from tank tops and no shoes.
Boom.
For like 7 years I wore flip-flops, like that's, it's good. It's good feeling. I
wore no shoes for 10 years.
we were talking about that though, earlier today, about how people create these Instagram pages or these Facebook pages or whatever, but they create this perception of this perfect life. And Jeff and I, we don't do that here on Redesigning Reality. This is our main mission, our focus, our goal here is to just be real as can be. We're not sugarcoating stuff. We're not hyping anything. There's no hype man out here going, yeah, boy, none of that stuff. Pure raw realness. And it's getting real here with the spring coming up.
It's real AF.
Yeah, I've been trying to cuss less on the show. I like, as a writer and a person who likes to talk, I like to use cuss words. I like to use curse words, F-bombs, all of that good stuff. And but one of the reasons I started doing this podcast was to develop just a higher level of control over my thinking and communicating in order to just improve and evolve to another level of quality self-expression. So in that, if you go back to, we were on episode 25 or so now with this podcast. If you go back to the beginning, you'll see that there was lots of filler words, and a lot of time those filler words started with F and ended with UCK.
Dylan's favorite. Yeah. But it's good though. It's there's always another adjective you can plug in, and it broadens your mind.
Frack yeah. Yeah, but we just mentioned these people put these glorious profiles on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and we're just working to be real here because there's a lot of fake stuff going on. I'm not even gonna bother going into the whole fake news garbage. I'm just talking about people being fake. And I'm seeing this week, man, because there's a lot going on in the news. There's a lot Donald Trump's is blowing up about to, bomb Syria, and everybody either wants, another war or they don't want another war. It's this crazy scene. And, Mark Zuckerberg is up testifying in front of Congress and stuff. So my point is that everybody's attention is on these big, narrations, these giant big events, oh my God, everybody's literally talking about nuclear war, prepare for nuclear war, or, everybody's all up in the drama about Facebook and stuff. And when everybody's mind, the collective hive mind jumps onto one thing, it becomes very consuming. And I think that's in a big way how we, how the world writes its own story, is that the more people pile on the narrative, their all minds going to the same place, their creative energy and their, visionary capacity that we have as humans, creates the future that we all sort of collectively, jump on. And I want to buck that, man. I want to jump off the Hive freight train. I want to get off that, man.
Yeah, and we talked about that the other day. We talked about how this whole collective unity, love, joy freight train it's a fallacy, and it's not real. It's not being played out in our daily lives. And when the sooner you realize that you can be, I'm not saying don't be a loving, you can be loving, you can be a beacon of honesty and support, but to think that the whole world is going to lay down their nukes or their guns or whatever the thing is that you're fired up about and marching about this week or last week, it's not going to happen. That's not what this plane is about. That's not what this worldly existence is about. We live in a world with all kinds of issues, and they're not going to solve themselves, and everybody's not going to all of a sudden get, hold hands and be friends across the globe. And that's just part of this deal, man. Competition and individuality has spurred us and spawned us on to great accomplishments in technology and healthcare, and on it goes,
Yeah, there was, my occupation is I'm a writer, more or less. I manage edit a blog called wakingtimes.com. It's pretty awesome. But the alternative news, so I'm sort of in that alternative news universe, and it's changing so fast. Let me just go back to what I really think has happened, Mr. Jeff. I got into this in 2011. I was always into alternative for decades. Been into alternative news and history and conspiracy and all these these non-mainstream ideas and schools of thought. And so getting into the alternative news in around 2011, there was definitely some very clear trends. Like people were really, the internet was, like social media was really starting to flesh itself out, and people were really starting to participate in that arena. And people were really starting to consume information from the internet in a major way. And that's new. It's stuff that's never happened before. But people were really into like a lot of consciousness expanding, mind opening news. People wanted to know like what the hell is the pineal gland about? What is it? What is the third eye awakening? What is what are all these different spiritual traditions? How do those relate to the world? People wanted to know about some of the occult influences on society and these sort of things, and people were really into for a while there prior to 2012, people were really into this idea of the indigenous ideas and indigenous schools of thought coming into the forefront and sort of helping us to transcend the destructive paradigms that we've built out in our culture now. And so there was this great collective hope and this great collective attention on all these good, really positive ideas, and it's all changed, man. It's all changed, I mean, you know what's going on in the news today, man. It's a totally different scene. People are not interested in that anymore.
Yeah, well, everything goes in cycles too, right? We've talked about that before, and people are human by nature. Not to,
well, that's deep, bro.
Throw a pun in there, but it's absolutely true. I mean, people. Let's say this, okay? You know how it is. You get something new, and this is something that you and I were talking about recently. This whole social news and social networking and Facebook and iPhones and all that shit, dude. That's all new.
Totally new.
I'm about to be 44 years old, and that stuff's 10 years old. So I made it to 34 years old and had a life, And think about our parents, right? And I had an awesome life without Facebook and YouTube and an iPhone and all that shit, right? And in some ways, it's starting to feel like baggage, man. It's kind of like
dude.
feeling like you're packing the past along with you everywhere you go. But my point is, people are tiring of a lot of this stuff. You're oversaturated with concepts and ideas that then people grab onto. And unfortunately, we live in a reality of unoriginality right now where people just regurgitate what they heard or repeat something and, take a few lines here and a few lines there and then, republish a story that's an old story. And at some point you become saturated, like you can listen to rap music and hip hop and rock music. It all sounds the same. It's all homogenized, right? It's all just become this kind of cooked down, melted down soup of the same thing. And, it's time for something new to happen and new growth. But my point is, when you get that new thing, when that iPhone first came out, or you get a new car or whatever it is, right? Some little gadget that you're into.
Okay.
At first, you're all about it, and you're flying your drone around, or you're riding your new car around. You're like, oh, this is awesome. But in time, the car gets a dent, and somebody scratched the paint, and you rubbed your wheel on the curb, and
somebody rips off your stereo.
Yeah, and before you know it, people are like, "Hey, can I smoke in here?" And you're like, "Yeah, fuck it, smoke." Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what this feels like to me. It kind of feels like that's where we're at with Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. It's not the new hip thing. People have kind of slid back into their new normal because it's still around. But something that you said about something that bothers us with the Instagram permanent vacation, Facebook.
Permanent vacation. That's what I wanted to bring up. Yeah.
I have a perfect life, all that. I mean, dude, the fakers have been around. You and I know that from being old school. The fakers have been around since we were around, right? I mean, you had the people putting up a front in, it starts in middle school. So from middle school through high school and college, you and I met plenty of fakers. And, and they used to be called scam artists or con men or whatever. Now it feels like we're inundated with con men, right? With fake news and look at my perfect life. And I do is go on vacation and on it goes. So this is something we wanted to jump in today. You can probably tell I'm a little fired up and passionate about all this stuff, but it's because I'm just real, man. And
real Jeff.
Yeah.
Just Jeff. Yeah, man, it's interesting because, being a publisher, I built up a business around this and it's been very, very successful for myself and my family. And then all of a sudden it's just like dropping an A-bomb in my business. And so there's definitely like forces and stuff at work here. But what I feel, man, what I sense, and this is what I was talking to you about, was that people's interests in news are like they're getting used to all this technology. They're getting used to having all this different news in front of their faces, and everybody's competing to make their opinion the loudest and this and that. But people's what I'm finding is that none of the news out there is relevant anymore. None of it seems relevant. There's so much news. There's so much slant. There's so much bias. There's so many people competing for clicks and cash for those clicks that it's almost like it's lost its appeal for me. So I'm really going inside right now and doing some soul searching and figuring out like, okay, well, what really is, I like what I do. I love what I do. What really is important? What can I really, bring and say to people? And what I keep finding is that there's a lot of ideas that pull people into the hive mind. If you want to jump on and be a lefty, or you want to jump on and be a Republican or a conservative, or freaking pick your team. There's plenty of places for you to spend your time in echo chambers that this faction of the hive, right? And what's really going on here is that people are. Speaking for myself, I'm being drawn more into my own self. Like, okay, cool. Well, how can I relate to all this, and how can I become freaking awesome in this environment? And so, I kind of feel like it's time to split further from the hive, man.
Right. But then there's the aspect of how do I relate to all this? But then again, how does all this relate to me? And that's some of the things that you and I enjoy talking about, and that we want to share with our community here and our listeners is
Right.
At some point you have to realize that this existence, this world that we live in on this plane is about you, right? And the sooner it kind of goes back to the show we did last week about personal truth and finding your truth.
Right.
The sooner you find out, like for you, for example, right now, you're in an industry that's kind of fledgling right now, right? It's scrambling to try to survive, and yet you enjoy writing, you enjoy
Right.
sharing. So you have to find a new way of expressing and writing and sharing, and do the parts of what you do that you do enjoy, and figure out how to make a living at doing that, and then let go of the parts of it that are lame and frustrating and overdone that you've seen, a million times over in this little 10-year span of social media. So, and the sooner people realize that this is about you, and when you take care of you, that puts you in a better position to take care of your family, to take care of your friends, to take care of whatever it's going to be, the happier and the better off you'll be, and the more fulfilled, because you'll know not only how this affects you, but how you affect this, right? And that's what this is all kind of about on this thing we called Earth, in this plane of existence that we're on right now.
Yeah, I had this conversation came up between us a few days ago when I was going through it's life. Life is ups and life is downs, and I was going through a little short 1 week or so period of like, what the heck is going on in my life? Like everything seemed to all of a sudden just slip into confusion and disarray within like a week's time. Now, if you've listened to the show at all for a couple of weeks, and hopefully you have, and thank you for doing so, you'll know that over the last 5-6 weeks, I've been basically laid out in bed with a broken collarbone and surgery and doped out on meds and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm transitioning back into life and every day, getting my routine back, looking to get into the jiu-jitsu gym and all this stuff. And man, I really hit like a spot where I was like just confused about what's the meaning in anything? Like, what's the point in anything? Like, what's the value in any of this? Like, what am I supposed to be focused on? What with so many things vying for your attention, like what actually matters, and you had said something to me that really I think is helping to carry me forward, right? You had said that you wanted to see me get back to a place of personal integrity and keeping those commitments to myself. So in other words, I had hit a spot where I had like lost sense of my own personal integrity, like lost the sense of what my mission was at the time, and lost the ability to stay focused on that mission, and that's life, man. But that's kind of what brought us to this conversation.
Well, and life is a constant recalibration, right? It's all about and things that you're integral on they can come in and out, and things phase through your life, but there's got to be a through line there, right? And that's called being grounded, right? And so a lot of people aren't grounded. They don't know what they think. They're on this roller coaster ride of social media where they read something or hear something or watch something today, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm over here with these guys. And then tomorrow, somebody who's more convincing over there convinces them that maybe I'm not over here and I want to be more over there. And what you're trying to do is find your center, find the middle. And you can't be so topsy turvy and up and down, man. That you're going to vomit on that roller coaster, and you're going to lose all spatial orientation, and you won't even know where you are after a while. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people are at right now with a lot of this. As soon as the mainstream media starts latching on to this thing that they call fake news, right? Then it becomes this buzzword. And people don't know what to believe anymore.
Right.
And they don't know where to put their focus. Did we focus on Donald Trump? Did we focus on the Kardashians, Kanye? Who knows? I focus on Jeff and Aaron and Dagan and Kai. That's my family. And I know that if I focus on them, long enough and hard enough, I can improve that realm of existence that we have right here in our home. And that's what I encourage people that I come into contact with or that I counsel with to do for themselves. Is all you can do is take care of you. I can't influence Donald Trump, and I don't really give a flip what Kanye West or any of these other people are doing. I don't care. It's not affecting my daily life. And yes, there's a lot of issues in the world. And if you want to change those things, you have to change your world. And then you can see about what you can do out there. And but we're not in that right now. We're in this this existence right now, collectively, getting back to this hive mind, collectively thinking of where everybody's trying to look in these windows, and most of those windows are on a phone into peer into somebody else's life. I want to peer into this and that and see what and when people are faking and posting perpetual vacation and my life is better than yours photos, you're not really getting a realistic view of what the world is and what's going on there anyway. So it's better just to pull back from all of that and let's go old school, back when I was 34 and nobody was on, there was no Facebook and there was no Twitter. And just
it's cool though, man. It's like the sense of connection, that I have with people around the world. This is like old friends, family, work associates, colleagues, that sort of stuff. It's pretty amazing, through Facebook and other social media. But there's like as we're finding out, there's so many unhealthy aspects to it, and like what I see like is one of the big ones is like all that stuff you're talking about with these people with their picture perfect, permanent vacation, Instagram accounts and stuff, and it seems to stoke envy. And I think that envy, I heard someone say recently that envy, it wasn't greed or money that was the root of all evil. It was envy. It was this insatiable need to want what somebody else has. And you had talked about it earlier today, as like commented about how there's the guy on the bicycle, biking down the road, and then he sees the guy on the motorcycle and he's like, damn, that motorcycle's nice. And then the guy on the motorcycle sees the guy in the BMW and he's like, oh my God, that BMW is nice. And the guy in the BMW is looking at the Ferrari and he's like, damn, that Ferrari's nice. And the guy in the Ferrari is looking up at the helicopter going, damn, I'm going to get me one of those one day, And so,
yeah.
And what is all that? What happens when your attention goes out there and your attention flows onto all these other people's lives, into all these other, programs? I mean, unless they're actually bringing you a message or something that's helping you out, man, that's useful to you, that's helping you get where you want to go, where you need to go. I mean, like, what's the other thing? I mean, like, you've probably seen the king of Instagram guy, Dan Bilzerian. I mean, it's tantalizing, bro. Like, you can go surf that dude's Instagram account, and it's just like, you're just like, wow, look at this studly mofo, all these guns and babes and traveling all over the world and hanging out, permanent vacation lifestyle, endless piles of money and Lear jets. And, it's just like, man, but what's happening when you're in that new school, permanent vacation, rabbit hole is yeah, man, your own life is wheeling backwards. You're like you're not getting the things done in your life that you should be getting done. You mentioned this before. Attention goes where energy flows, or energy goes. What is it? Attention, energy flows. Where your attention
energy flows, where attention goes.
That's it. That's the one. And so like literally, I find myself. I mean, because part of my work is on dealing with social media, with the audience that we've built that we can't reach anymore because they just cut us all off. So I've recently cut my social media use down a whole lot because I was like, what's the point? I have a Facebook page for my website. It's got like 600,000+ people on it. And I can't even, I could post the most amazing, uplifting thing, and like I can't even reach 1% of those people, right? So I mean, but the point is.
So then, yeah. But let me interrupt you there. So then the point, the real point is that here we are doing it anyway.
Keep it
because
up, man.
Because this is what makes us happy. This is what we're here to do. And even if we only, something I learned about myself from writing my book and doing what I do, even if I'm only changing one life at a time, man, that's the one life is worth touching, and helping or saving and the Dan Blazarians of the world, Blazarians, those dudes are wondering if dude, you think that guy's happy wondering if any of the, okay, so
I can't even
sit in a photo with 25 girls with barely any clothes on. And it's not even humanly possible to satisfy this many women. And do any of them even care about him? Or are they there for the free airplane ride to Las Vegas and hitting the casinos and all the, you know what I mean? It's an empty, and I think about all the time, and I know you do too, the joy of fatherhood and
right.
the joy of mentoring a child through their life and watching them grow. It's such a cool thing, man, and it's so rewarding. Yeah, it's hard.
It's really hard.
Just like the stuff that we're going through right now in our personal lives, as far as our businesses go, and what we're gonna launch ourselves into next. It's hard. It's a challenge, but it's also very rewarding. And yeah, man. I mean, I mentioned that thing earlier because it's always like we were talking about the other day. His grass is greener than, what's he doing? What's his secret over there? And so people are always wanting the thing that they perceive as better than the thing that they have. And yet, if we could turn that focus inside and get out of that hive mind, collective, competitive, it's all about what my neighbor has or the stranger over here in traffic, and back into, hey man, I'm fulfilled in what I have, right? Like, the funny thing about that little cartoon is there was nothing wrong with the bicycle, the motorcycle, the or any of the vehicles in the thing. It was just somebody's wants. And that's another thing we could touch on in the show. There's a big difference between wants and needs, and most of us have the things we need. We're just distracted and confused by the things that we want or that we even think we want.
I think it's a cool, like, the things that are happening, like, there's pros and cons to everything, but the things that are happening with social media and politics and stuff right now, man, it's like, it should be easy. Let's take just Trump, just real quick. I'll get in and out of the Trump thing just super fast. Surgical strike.
Dude, that's like a freaking.
Okay, like,
is that even possible? I'm going to get in and out of this Trump thing super fast.
I'm going to shock and all surgical strike. Like, it's going to happen like super quick. Check it out. Like, I was thinking about this week. Whenever you're listening to this, what's going on this week in the news is like there's this, third or fourth time there's been a supposed Syria chemical attack, blah, blah, blah. And now President Trump is like tweeting that he's ready to start a war with Russia, which doesn't make any sense. And it's totally maniacal and psychopathic. And, Russia's like, yo, man, we're just like going to get nuclear real quick and everybody's going to die, and he's like, yeah. And he's, tweeting like a madman, basically. But what I see, man, like when I see that stuff, I'm like, okay, cool, man. Like, seriously, I'm a conscientious objector when it comes to voting. I don't vote anymore. I've participated heavily in politics, done all the activism, politics, delegations, all that kind of stuff. I have become a conscientious objector. And so there's so many people that still believe in this Hive system, this voting system, this presidential system. And so what I see this week happening is it's like, oh, cool. Well, here's your chance, folks, to take another look at what's really going on and realizing that, like, you don't have any control, man. Like, these guys are doing their own thing, man. Trump is just one more example of a president who's doing the exact opposite of whatever he told everybody he was going to do. But it's exaggerated. He's crazier than all of them, And so you got to really like it's your opportunity to detach, man. You have no control over what these guys to do. I mean, there's no protest movement that's going to, spring up and take on the White House. There's no unity for that, So it's the Kali Yuga, man, the age of decay, and everything's, all of the big ticket items, the governments and the states and all the big paradigms that we've put all our trust and faith in, for so long, or fracturing. Yeah, they're all coming apart at the seams. And the cosmic message in this is like, hey people, okay, these institutions, these people, they don't deserve your attention anymore, right? They're not what they say they are. Facebook isn't, you could pay Facebook for likes, but the people that like your page after you paid for it aren't going to be allowed to see your content for, Facebook is going to hide your content from this. So so nothing is what it's been advertised as, you know. So hopefully now with even another freaking president that's, you know, basically doing all the opposite of what he said he was going to do, you know, like it's just opportunity for more people to wake the heck up, you know, and get on to the task of working on yourself, man, because you
can't even control that.
Yeah, if you can't control yourself, then, you know, I mean,
and really none of us can. I mean, there's so many things, there's factors that are going to happen. I can't control if somebody's going to ram their car into mine later on today. Yeah. I mean, these are just, we live in a world of things going haywire and things being out of our control. But if you can control what's in here and what's in here, and I'm pointing at my head and my heart right now. What? If you can begin to grasp the importance of the things that you're allowing into your head and the thoughts that you entertain and how those are then pushed down into your heart and how all of this stuff passes through your chakra system, and it's not just meaningless thoughts going through your mind. These things have a physiological effect on our bodies, and you may soon realize that yes, being a conscientious objector, refraining from the 24-hour doom and gloom news cycle and getting off of that roller coaster is more conducive to leveling off your, you know, stress levels and not having an overload of you know, stress hormones and all these things that are causing high blood pressure and all these other physical problems. So, you know, go ahead. I can tell you want to.
In a sense, though, like our perspective, I think my perspective on all this is seasoned. You know, like I've been looking at the funky news, the dark stuff, the conspiracy news, the underbelly of what's going on in the world for many, many, many years. So I've had time to process it. Almost like it's almost been like a process of grieving. Like, you know, you wake up into this world, you go to school, parents raise you, and you're told, and you're led to believe that the world is one way. They have this great democracy and all this, you know, whatever. The indoctrination to the story is pretty big. It's there. But so for people that haven't processed all of that and haven't really like come to the conclusion that things aren't not as advertised, like it's tantalizing. It's super tantalizing. It's sucked into this hive, you know, frenzy of what's going on today, what's happening today, what's Comey saying today, and what's what's Trump's reply, like oh my God, what's happening with Mueller, and it's crazy to me because I see all of these like, news organizations, which are adult people, grown up people that are so heavily invested in these stories and these narratives that they just don't quit, man. They don't quit. And our perspective, I think, is a bit more seasoned. We've been able to, you've dove into all this stuff before, and you've been able to look at it and you tickled your fancy about whatever horrible things may be brewing behind the surface. And then you and I did something unique. We both ended up in Costa Rica with our families and just checked out of all of that, man, and got really, really connected to the earth, got really, really connected to ourselves, got really, really connected to other people and the cycles of nature, and really just cleansed of the negativity of all of that. And so man, I think if people could bypass what I had to go through, the years and years and years of reading stupid conspiracy theories, man, like, and just get straight to the business of being awesome, and like figuring out what it is in your life that you need to be awesome, man. And
but then there again lies the problem, because people are so busy looking through other people's windows, right? Trying to sneak in and see what's going on in their Instagram feed and what's going on CNN and what just happened with. I mean, dude, even right now,
it
is tempting, and
it's a type of pornography. It's fear porn. We talked about that before.
But as you well know, I mean, dude, you're naming off names that I have no context.
Who?
Like I know Donald Trump, Mueller,
Comey, yeah, okay.
I don't know, and I don't care. Neither one of those dudes is gonna knock on my door today and freaking. Expand my world in any way whatsoever. So that's the thing that I'm talking about. So, okay, I'm going to just jump into a train of thought here that I discussed with you on the phone the other day.
Do it, man.
Since we were talking about the things that we have done, right? So we both, number one, detached from, society, the society that we grew up in, right? We chose to move to
Right.
Costa Rica with our families
Right.
and pursue a different lifestyle and a different way of raising our family. We weren't there for a permanent vacation. We weren't retired. Our kids weren't on. We were doing it. We were in the middle of it.
Right.
And having children down there, both of us, right? Which is an interesting topic in its own. But so we go down to this totally new place. We're now we're the minority. We
Right.
don't speak the language. We're learning. We're on this learning path. So automatically, just by proxy, we become removed from all of these things that we thought were so important that we were talking about earlier, right? We talked about the competition, and I went to this university and you went to that university, and I'm on this team and you're on that team and your team sucks and my team's better. None of that mattered anymore, man, because I'm trying to learn how to say I need to find a replacement bulb for my car turn signal because it can't pass inspection in Spanish, right? So or, hey, I need to talk to a doctor because my wife's pregnant and they only speak Spanish. Like, what am I going to do with this? So,
or hey, how to talk to a police officer when you get pulled over. And
pulled
like,
over.
What are the
So,
rules here? I don't even know.
So we got pulled from this like broad vision of things that we had experienced and were familiar with into this very focused precision lifestyle of all I'm focused on is surviving right now. I need to survive, how to make this happen, and how to pursue the next thing that I don't know how to do.
Yeah, how to make money, how to make a living. Like
right.
The economics of it all was a huge thing. I quit a long career in video games, as did your wife. She and I worked together for many years in video games. I quit all that just to go do it. I had no idea what was going to happen when we got down there, but it totally was survival mode. You're like, you're sitting out there and you're like, I have to think about what's going on in me, what faculties and resources I have, what skills I have in my pocket, and what I'm willing to learn, what I'm capable of learning, and what I can do from basically a shack in the jungle, with a piss poor internet connection. Like, get pretty creative, man, when you need money in that bank, man.
Well, you just jumped on board with exactly, where I was trying to take this conversation right now is you start learning how resilient you are and what you can and how quickly you can learn things when you're thrust into. I mean, it's like being thrown in the deep end of a swimming pool. You're either going to sink or you're going to swim. And thank goodness the two of us were both resilient enough, and our wives, that we swam well. We became championship swimmers, as a matter of fact, and we ended up being the people that people sought out for advice and information on how they could become swim in the same current that we were in, right? And but the point of me saying that is once we became more comfortable, right? So we started learning the language. We both had a couple kids. We started feeling confident about, hey, I got this, man. I've now bought cars. I've bought properties. I've built houses. I've had children, all in a language that I didn't understand 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever the time frame may have been. Well, then all of a sudden, what happened, dude? For both of us, we both were able to turn our attention again on the things that we had left behind, that we had kind of turned our backs on, right? Because we were so focused on this thing over here that this thing behind us didn't matter anymore. And you used the thing that you then pulled focus on again to jump into this whole alternative media thing. And hey, there's a different way to think about these things. There's a different way to view these things. I've had time away from the system, to analyze it and see where my perspective is and where I fit in and how to kind of unplug. Remember when we were there, dude, and this has become like another one of those fads that died, but the whole off-grid thing, like I'm going to unplug and I'm going to off-grid. And I'm like, like we did that. I mean, we were living in a village with no telephones and no internet and no nothing, dirt road. And then I would laugh at the people in the States with their perfect little campers with every little kind of technology they could, and they were like, we're off-gridders. And I would look at Aaron and laugh and be like, oh, check these funny people out that think they're off-grid. They should come hang out with us for a week. That would be funny. So, but the point is that there's these cycles, right? And for any kind of growth to happen, you kind of have to take the thing that you already know and put it down a little bit and investigate the thing that's completely new and completely difficult, and grow yourself. And it's that thing I said to you recently, you know, the more you grow, the more you know, and then the more you know, the more you grow. It's this cyclical thing that happens, and it happened to us. And now eventually what happens is you abandon all those things, you pursue. In my case, it was shamanism and healing. And in your case, it was ayahuasca and shamanism. And also, you're kind of this weird paradigm of, I'm this shaman, healer, ayahuasca dude, but I'm also really tied into this social media, alternative news, what's really going on in the world thing, which is a very interesting perspective. But to finish the thought, you know, at some point, you have the return. And that was something that we were talking about the other night on the phone is you abandon all these things, you leave them behind, and you think you're going to become this more exalted, more aware image of yourself that you've had for all these years. And in many ways you do. But then at some point you realize, like I told you, man, I just like watching a basketball game sometimes. And, you know, like, maybe it would be nice to drive a car that my window wasn't falling down in the door every time I hit a pothole or whatever, you know, like, and there's nothing wrong with all those things once you find a balance. It's when you're just so tied up in the social media and the mainstream media or sports that you know, don't give the time or place to any of these other things, that things start becoming one-sided,
stagnant, stuck, boring, you know, pointless,
repetitive,
fruitless.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing I'm seeing right now, man. It's like, now is the time. Like there's some really cool messages coming across through the frequency waves of the internet, you know, and the one that I'm really resonating with right now is like, you know, now is the time to be your best self. Like, you know, like, get involved in what it is that your heart most desires, and be the best of yourself at it. You know, do it. And the cool thing is, there's so many people that can offer you so much advice and inspiration to get on that path and stay on that path. But that's such a different message than the Hive message of what's going on with the news and the media and stuff, and where that attention goes, you know. And so, man, like the resources available on the internet right now for personal growth are freaking phenomenal. I mean, this show's an example of it. You know, what we're saying right now may resonate with somebody, and they're like, oh, dude, you know, this is what I needed to hear, you know. I manage a newsletter where I communicate with, you know, thousands of people every week, and you know, I just share stuff that's going on in life, you know. And yesterday I shared an interesting, just came to me. I was like, I just want to share something that one of my, you know, shamanic elders shared with me one time. And I just put it down, just a few sentences long, and the responses I got back in email, you know, were fascinating, really, really cool. I'll just bounce on that, man. I'll just tell you what it's all about, Mr. Jeff. I sent out this little note.
Go, do it.
Yeah, it was basically just sent out this little note saying, "Hey, man, here's two important questions for you, and they're not so easy to answer." And you know, like I said, it broke down. I said, you know, one of my elders told me that if I could answer these two questions, it would be easy for me to live a life of happiness and peace of mind and purpose. And but the caveat is that, like, the answers that you're going to come up with, what you're going to find out is, like, in order to get to answers that actually, you know, lead you towards purpose, is you're going to find out all the BS in your head. You're going to first start regurgitating all the illusions of the ego, all the illusions of your experiences that you had, all these things that live in your mind that you believe to be true that are just, you know, literally metaphysical smoke clouds in your brain, you know. And the questions are very simple, Jeff. You know what they are? You want to take a guess? We'll do like a Jeopardy round here. Rapid fire Jeopardy. Go.
No idea.
Two questions. Okay. Question number 1, who are you? Question number 2, what do you want?
Yeah, those seem like very simple.
So simple, man.
But those are tough ones because, like you said, most people come up with the why nots instead of the how tos as soon as they're asked.
Well, that. I did this stuff, man, and like one of the first experiences I had in ayahuasca that was like just absolutely life changing. I mean, I almost every day I still think about this. Is it's 7-8 years down the road, whatever, and it very much like the experience on the medicine was this insane vision of saying, hey man, like who do you think you are, and my mind did that. It started throwing up all this stuff. My name is Dylan Charles Hunt. My occupation is a sound designer. I'm married to this person here, and her name is this, and I have this child whose name is that, or whatever. And I'm from this particular geographical area, and the experience, the medicine was like, yeah, no, you're wrong. You're wrong about all that, dude. No, you're not. You're not any of that stuff, man. You're not at all what you think. But so what I found out from people replying to me was that the answers tend to, like, over time, and the more time people learn about themselves and understand themselves, and the closer they get to finding peace and happiness, the answers evolve to these questions. I mean, there's no static answer. It's a very dynamic question. It can be different every single day, and I think that's one of the real values of it. But the answers tend to get more and more cosmic as time goes by, as people really start to contemplate what's happening in this reality, start to contemplate the possibility of multiple realities or parallel universes or spiritual realms or shamanic perspectives and all these crazy what happens in the, what's the psychedelic experience all about? Like when, what are moments of clarity or near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences, or why can some people, lucid dream or astral travel? I mean, there's so much cosmic stuff going all around you, and the closer you get to that, the more cosmic the answer gets, and the more cosmic the answer gets to those questions, who am I, what do I want, the more liberating it feels. Like in other words, like your identity dissolves from I'm Dylan Hunt, accountant, whatever, into like it progresses into I'm some infinitely cosmic being of awareness, that's experiencing, this material, I mean, it just gets cosmic,
For sure.
But let me just say one last quick thing. And then the thing is that, like, none of this stuff that's competing for your attention on the internet and the news and stuff, none of this stuff is asking you to consider that cosmic stuff. Everything wants your attention to go on somewhere else, man. So there's a great loss there.
Well, true. There is a great loss there. There's a loss of your path.
Yeah,
number one,
knowing who you are, right? And
most
getting down to the business of being yourself,
Well, and most people never get down to the business of the most important business, which is their personal lives, which is what we keep. We're launching all these rockets right now of thought, and they all revolve around the same thing, which is that this whole trip, this whole journey is about you, and what are you going to do with it? And if this isn't, I think about it like this. So say you're on a diet, right? Like you're trying to drop a few pounds. Basically, every single food option that you come across during your day, you have to decide, is this moving me forward or is this moving me back?
Right.
And that's the same thing, man. Like you need to have this concept of a spiritual diet. And is this thing that I'm about to watch on CNN going to move me forward on discovering who I am and what my place is here? Or is it going to move me further away from that? And you'll probably find that most of the things that you're doing are moving you away from your center. They're moving you away from true self-discovery of, and I'm not talking. Go ahead.
I just want to bounce in here real quick, man, because you're saying something that's really important to me and really relevant to what I'm experiencing in my life right now. And that's this idea of living with intention, and living with intention from moment to moment. And it's not easy to do, man. It's really not an easy thing to do, but it's an evolving process. And the better you get at it, the more granular you can get, and the more, like for example, like how are you breathing physically? Most people don't breathe. They shallow breathing, whatever poor posture they're in. But living with this kind of intention that you're talking about, it's like, yeah, you can change your life by changing your breath, but the way to get there, that doesn't happen unless you're moving with intent through every moment, man. And it's interesting. I just wanted to bounce that at you.
Well,
because
it falls back into the thing we were saying earlier. Energy flows where attention goes, and the more you make your intent focused on what your intentions are, not to like have a bunch of muddled words here, but the more focused you become, the more, I mean, you become a sniper and you focus in on the one target, the one goal that you want to see and overcome in your lives. And then that becomes the senile existence that you have. Nothing else seems to matter. And that's where, at the same time, that's where you can do things and you can participate things for the joy of them, right? And for lack of a better word, the distraction of it, and not lose your focus on getting caught up in statistics of who's going to win this game and what's going to be the outcome of a season, but yet just watch a game while really you're contemplating what is your place in the world and what is your place even in this sport that you're watching, and how is that, what is that bringing to your life? Is it bringing you relaxation? Is it bringing you joy? What is the thing that you're extracting from that experience? And a lot of people don't take the time to do that because they get so fired up and they're so emotionally involved in the things that they feel, that they've been jilted, or that they haven't been heard, or that their feelings are hurt about this thing. And it becomes this, they're focused on the exterior and what's happened to them instead of what they can do to happen to things. In other words, how can I basically use my story to help others instead of living my story and to the detriment of my own personal growth? And I find that a lot in counseling and in talking with clients of mine, that they're living this story about themselves that they don't even know if it's true. It's just a belief system that they have because it's a stack of chapters that they've collected over the years and carried with them. And it probably isn't even accurate anymore. And if they would just put it down, they could use that story as a reference piece, right? Like an encyclopedia of information that they could share to help others, instead of living this old story that doesn't really function in their world anymore.
Yeah, like I'm not living some magical, perfect life here, and like one of the things I really like about doing this podcast and doing the work that I do is it does help me to keep my attention on my own growth. I can listen to myself talk and be like, okay, where am I at today? Where was I coming from when I was feeling that way, and where do I need to be going? And you and I had a conversation this other week that kind of spurred what we're talking about now. And I was in this funky place. Like I said earlier, man, I was just lost and confused about what's going on. And you had made a comment to me that really was helpful. And you're pretty damn helpful when you're counseling people. So if anybody out there is listening, you're like, well, this guy is counseling. It's pretty cool. You've got an incredible intuitive sense to you that comes out in surprising moments. But you were like, yo, man, stop. I want to hear you. I want to see you realigned again with your own, with commitment to yourself. I want to see you realigned with your own personal integrity. You've got yourself split and divided mentally and spiritually between all these different concepts and ideas, and your attention is divided in so many ways. And I want to see you pull that back in. Pull that back together and get some cohesiveness back into your own life, the day-to-day, moment-to-moment cohesiveness. And so, I mean, I'm, like you said, man, I'm kind of unique in that I have a background in news and history and conspiracy theory and all this kind of stuff. And I sort of write and have written a lot about that stuff, but I also write a lot about shamanism and plant medicines and the spiritual journey, that comes with that path. And for people coming from our world, man, those two paths, it's maybe not as far out as you think, like I think what a lot of what drives people to that shamanic, that alternative path it's like I said, the experience of processing the world with an open enough mind to recognize that things aren't as advertised. Like you're not being told, like the experience doesn't jibe with the sales pitch. And so when people start thinking that way and recognizing that, they're like, well, what's out in the fray? What's under the radar? What are they not allowing me to do? What is available to me that, I might have to go travel somewhere to experience? What am I being not allowed to think? What am I being not allowed to experience? And that's kind of how I ended up, in the shamanic, universe, right? Like experiencing and sitting and spending lots of time with incredible elder shamans in their own incredible psychedelic universe that they operate in, and so.
But you had to let go of this definition of who Dylan was in order to.
Right.
Kind of mesh and meld yourself with. And now the most awesome thing about that, and we've talked about this, and just to give Dylan a compliment since he gave me one, those people look at you as on their, maybe not as experienced as them, but you're on their same level. You're on the same plane of eldership, for lack of a better word, or
on the path.
You're on that path, right? And now, because you're on that path, the thing that your passion has become that path. That's what I'm trying to say without getting too wordy here. So, and that's what I try to help people do, and that's what I would encourage anyone listening to the show to do. I mean, you may have to keep doing the thing you're doing now, whatever that is. If you're whatever it is, you're waiting tables, you're an attorney, you're whatever, but it's not your favorite thing to do. Start doing your favorite thing, and then see if you can evolve that into your career.
Dude, I was talking about this email that I sent out asking those two questions, and one of the replies I got back, it kind of stabbed me in the heart, man. I just felt it so deeply, man. Like this guy from British Columbia, I won't say his name, but he writes and says, "Who am I?" And he says, "I am basically a horse that's stuck in a pasture, and I just graze all day, and then every once in a while somebody comes and throws a saddle on me and brings me out of the pasture and rides the hell out of me and makes me do what they want to do, and then they put me back in the pasture and lock me up and then go on about their business in this big world. And what do I want?" And he's like, "I want to know I want to know like what life is truly about for me. Like I want to know what the hell I'm here for, basically." And it really stuck me because man, I've been there. Dude, I mean, so been there, and you don't know, man. You don't know when you're stuck in that, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's related to your job or your relationship or the expectations of other people, the influences of other people who have, their expectations plastered all over you. Whatever it is that's keeping you in that cage, man. Whew, man, it's time to find that. I don't even know the words for it, but it's time to find a way. It's time to, prod yourself out of that. It's time to jump the fence,
Yeah, time to break out,
and man, that's what I think. Like when I was going through some of this stuff, many years back, 15 whatever years back, like I didn't have like the resources that you have now. I mean, there's so like we do podcasts and I listen to podcasts. There's some freaking incredible podcasts, man, and I'm always striving to be more smooth and better and calmer during the podcast, and hopefully bring more value and insight into it. And it's I definitely feel it improving, but there's some stuff out there, man. There's some content out there that could seriously help people break through and go for it, and so that's cool, man. That's good stuff. That is good mojo.
It is good stuff. And it all, though, just to drive the point home, it all depends on you, though. It really does. And there can be the most uplifting, the most spiritual, the most unbelievable advice and information out there. But unless you realize that it's for you and you take heart and take action. A hold of that and take action, absolutely. It doesn't matter. I mean, it might as well be like half the other websites out there that nobody's ever heard of. You could type www.whatever, and there's going to be something there you never heard of before. So, because it wasn't necessary for you at that time. And that's another thing to think about is, doors open and opportunities present themselves when you get yourself in alignment with those opportunities. And I love that saying, preparation, luck is a combination of preparation and timing.
I thought it was preparation and timing. You're right. Okay, I was going to say perspiration, but I think that's another cliche.
But I mean, when people say, "Oh, well, that person got lucky," they didn't get lucky. They prepared themselves over and over again, and they were in the right place at the right time because they were open to the opportunity happening to them. And if you keep yourself prepared and you keep yourself aware and plugged into the thing that you want to do and you want to be, the opportunity will come. And then you have to get over your fear and realize that, hey, this isn't going to be easy, but this is what I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to go for it.
At some point, like I'm actually dealing with this right now because I'm moving from, I'm concerned personally with the evolution of my being over time, right? And I've been where that guy was in the pasture. I've been that horse in the pasture before and felt like, like what's the point of all this? Like, what the hell? I'm just a cog in the machine here. I've definitely been there, and I've broken through that. And now I'm at a different spot, and I've gone through a lot between then and now. And now I'm like, okay, cool. I'm seeing things about myself that I never saw before. Like I'm seeing, ways that I need to be and ways that I need to live in order to continue to be my happiness. I've plateaued with, my growth, and I'm realizing that like plateaus aren't as, people aren't as stuck on a plateau as stuck, and so like the things I'm going through right now, I'm taking in information and stuff, and it's a challenge to up level from wherever you're at, like whatever you're going through, it's a challenge to up level. And so I'm taking in all this information, and I'm seeing all these different directions that I could go, and I'm dialing into where I want to go, and I'm seeing exactly what I need to do. But then it comes down to like what you were just saying, to take action, man. They really like put it all together, they integrate it, they make it happen, man. And that's a challenging step. And so if anybody out there is listening to this and they're going through one of those early stages where they're trying to bust through and stuff, man, and like you just got to keep at it, keep filling your brain with the good messages, man. Keep filling your mind and your heart with the positive messages. The things that resonate with you, the things that make sense to you, the things that help you see what might be beyond that pasture on the other side of the fence. And then someday it's just going to become like a necessity. Like you'll just be like, okay, I've seen the path kind of becoming clear for some time now, and I haven't stepped on that path yet or jumped the fence and gotten on that path yet. And then all of a sudden one day you're going to be like, I don't have a choice anymore. I have to do this. It's a necessity now, not just a desire, and once your own growth becomes a necessity, then it's like you said, man, doors open up and things come to pass. But, it's, if you're part of the hive, it's the hive doesn't operate that way. The hive isn't concerned with your personal development. It's concerned with the development of the hive, totally different scene.
Dude, I think you just wrapped it up.
Seriously.
I mean, I kept sitting there thinking I'm going to say something, but what you were saying was so poignant and put that I'm just going to say, if hopefully we can be a part of that path for our listeners. And I really hope that, listening to our shows and, finding us and through our outlets, which are, of course, you could find Dylan at wakingtimes.com. You can get in touch with me at journeytoinnersage.com. And we'd love to be a part of your progression and helping people find their path in whatever way that means. And we just really appreciate it. Keep the comments coming in, and if you think our show would help somebody, send a link to your friends and encourage them to subscribe and listen to our podcasts and things like that. And man, great show.
Word. Cool, man. All right, well, that's all I got. So like the man said, thank you for tuning in. Peace out and take care of yourself. We'll do this again next week. Later.
Ciao.
You've been listening to Redesigning Reality with Jeff Anthony and Dylan Charles.
Mukabanya, mukabanya.